Hi, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery and I've got African night crawlers. One of the tubs, the one over here on the bench, has African night crawlers in them, and the one up there on the top shelf is also African night crawlers. That's the older one, this is the younger one. And for a while now, as you can see, I've got sort of a special setup going on here. I've been trying to bait the mites out of this material, but I kind of hit a little bit of a snag the other day and I almost pretty much abandoned the whole thing. I ended up setting up the traps here in this one, and the other one I just scrapped it. And then I haven't touched the whole mite situation here for a couple days now. So I just figured it'd be a timely opportunity to come in here and try to take a closer look at what's happening in here. Try to get a sense of what's going on. See if the bread that I put out here as bait is working. And, try to figure out what the next steps are going to be here. I do have a little idea though. But let's start by trying to take a closer look at what's happening over here. I'm very curious, especially in here. Well, I finally decided to fight fire with fire. So I just went out and I got some of this stuff, neem oil. It's specifically for mites, and I'm just gonna go point blank and I'm gonna give this stuff a shot. Just gonna place it back up here on this plastic. And I'm gonna apply some of this stuff. Now, the reality of the matter is that I can't really see what's happening here, and I'll be able to better tell what's going on once I play back some of this time-lapse footage. Either I can see movement or not, or I could see movement stop as a result of this stuff being sprayed on here. But I think just from an overall strategy perspective, I'm doing away with the baiting. I'm going to kind of bring the whole drying phase to a halt now too. Because if the new strategy is the use of this neem oil stuff, then there's no, I guess there's no use in continuing with this persistent dry. It's like a desert in here, basically, for these poor worms. So I'd really like to get some moisture going in here again. And I'm also going to just go back to covering with plastic. So I'm really going to try to apply the neem oil. I think I'm going to spray it down with water after that, just to maybe help the neem oil that I applied sort of blend in a little bit. And then we're going to, I guess we could put those pieces of paper back on top. Hopefully they don't dry things out too much, but on top of everything, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover up with plastic and try to restore dampness to this system again as best we can. It's like a desert in here, literally. But now, since I guess since my target is probably down the middle as far as mites are concerned, if there's still mites in here, I'm pretty sure there are, because I see them everywhere, scattering. And it's not just the little white mites anymore. It seems like there's all kinds of little mites running around in here. So I'm going to go ahead and give this bin a really thorough spray down. Try to go slow so I don't end up spraying it all into the air. It seems like it's coming out in such a fine mist that I just want to make sure it all ends up down in the bin. I'm going to go pretty generous with this stuff. I didn't get the impression that you have to be too sparing. And besides, the moisture situation in this bin is pretty dire. Pretty sure anything that I put in here is going to get soaked right up. So I want to be pretty thorough. And besides that, we're going to be rinsing this stuff down too with a little bit of water. Spray it all down. Get the whole thing covered up. And I guess we'll have to see what becomes of the situation. Alright. I remember people talking about how this stuff has a little bit of an odor. I could tell there's something going on there, but it's really not too much. So I'm not too worried about it. I think maybe as far as the water is concerned, I think some people buy this stuff diluted. This stuff I purchased, it was like ready to go right out of the bottle. But I saw more concentrated versions of it on the shelf. This was just the cheapest stuff they had. This was 10 bucks for that bottle. And I usually try to deal with the situations in my worm bins using any sort of homespun remedies, stuff that I've got laying around, or if I do need to go out and buy something, I'm going to usually try to take the most, you know, conservative approach in terms of not wanting this hobby to cost me much, if anything. It's really just a way to get rid of trash. All right, I don't want to go too overboard here. I think we're pretty much done in this bin. We're going to cover up with these poor old pieces of paper. It's so dry. Should probably spray these down a bit too. Although once the moisture starts circulating in this bin, these will get nice and damp. They'll start picking up some of the moisture that starts equalizing here within the bin. But instead of making them sponges, let's give them their own moisture source. Maybe they can even share a little bit. I think that the moisture situation in this bin is pretty dire. I think the worms are going to be really thankful for the moisture, and I hope that the mites are going to be very ungrateful or not very happy about the neem. So I really hope the stuff works. I'm just really kind of at my rope's end already. I just want to be done with these mites. So let's get this thing covered up. We're going to check in on the other bin too. The other bin, I think it was in that other bin was where I felt like the real mite outbreak was going on. So I'm dying to see what's going on in there. Let's go get that bin now. Alright, so now here, I think we have to raise the camera up a little bit to get a better view of what's going on in here. Although I do want to kind of get close up. Here, we don't have any sort of a baiting station. I did away with it. And here, I think if there are still mites, they're just going to be hanging right down the middle, or maybe on the two edges where the feedings were. I'd like to just expose them and get some time-lapse footage to see if there was maybe stuff moving in the beginning, and then maybe even as a result of getting sprayed down, maybe the movement stops. Typically when we do a maybe 10-minute, 15-minute time-lapse, you know, we get to watch all that time, all the activity that happens under those 10 minutes in just a few seconds. And usually the mites don't dive out of view. They're not too bashful about being out in the bright lights. So we'll see if we can light up the scene here, expose some mites, if there are any. I assume there will be. And then we're going to give this whole thing a good spray down and watch what happens over those next few, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And I don't know. That's the thing, is I'm not sure if this stuff has an immediate effect or if it's an effect that you have to wait for. So I'm really kind of going through the tests to see if there is an immediate effect. I had sort of gotten the impression that this stuff works both ways, basically. But there is not just an immediate effect, but in the long term too, it, I guess, helps. So just fishing a couple of these little guys off the plastic, but you know what, I'm just going to fold the plastic in half, keep the moisture there. But you know what, let's get rid of these too. Put these over on the plastic too, and fold the whole thing over to keep everything nice and damp and comfortable for a few minutes. So now here we've been running the system with the plastic coverings. So these pieces of paper on the top surface, they're nice and damp. The system even got fed not too long ago, so the moisture, you know, coming out of those food items is also helping the environment get comfortable again, because the system in here had really gotten very, very dry, and I eventually felt like I really needed to, you know, put a halt to the dryness and let things sort of get back to normal again, as far as moisture is concerned, at least. It was just that when I came in here last time, I found all these mites buried down in these two gullies that I had dug on these two sides of the bin. They had pretty much taken over the areas where I had fed some grapes. I mean, here and there you can see a grape. Every time I see one, I try to squish it just to make sure it's not whole anymore, just to make sure its moisture is seeping out and getting put to good use. So I mean, I don't know, I just figure let's load up this test with something that we can almost certainly say for sure is mites, which I'm thinking is this little bit of food over here, whatever that is. I can see bits and pieces of other things here that appear to have mites scattered around them. But I got a feeling whatever it is that we see happening right over here, this is what I'm interested in seeing what happens after we apply some of this neem oil. I think here too is another piece of seed that looked like it had some mites hanging out on it. Let's see if there's anything else we can drum up over here. All right, here too, just a little chunk of castings, had some mites on it, whatever. All right, let's switch over to time-lapse mode. I'm going to douse this down with moisture with the neem oil spray, and I'll be curious to see what becomes of that little pile of mites right there as a result of it. Let's watch. I would have to say that that was about 10 minutes or more of time that we permitted after the first application of the neem oil was sprayed on. And then there was another secondary spraying done a little later. But it's very hard to tell if anything stopped moving or maybe just left. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that time lapse plays back. And you know, I got to thinking about the other bin where we put those dry pieces of paper on top. I went back in there and I took a look and it was crawling with mites. All the mites have been coming out of that bed and they came to that nice damp newspaper, which was only sprayed with water. So I went ahead and I treated the damp newspaper with some of this stuff too. So here too, I think we're going to follow suit with what we did in the other one. Is we're just going to follow the neem oil application with a little bit of water to help it sort of, I don't know, soak in or drip down, or, you know, kind of soak in a bit. Maybe at the same time I could also get a few sprays onto my glove and rinse off while we're putting the moisture on. All right, a whole bunch of uncertainty all the time with these mites and all the different things we've tried so far, but gosh, it would be so nice if finally something worked. So I hope that this does what we were hoping that it would. Knock out the mites. And hopefully it doesn't have any sort of ill effect on the little worms either. But I think we'll probably do the same here just to make sure that if the neem is doing a good job and the worms try to take shelter on the paper to get away from what the neem is doing, then we'll be surprised to find that the paper is also soaked with neem oil. So these pieces of paper are luckily already kind of damp, so they're lying pretty easily flat. That other dry stuff that we had in the other system was just, you know, all crinkled together and crumpled together. That stuff will lie nice and flat too once it dampens up a little bit. But I sprayed that stuff down with neem oil too. I'm going to do the same here just in case the mites suddenly find that they're not liking the stuff that we just sprayed it in there with. They're not going to find that the newspaper is a place to hide, because the newspaper is going to have the same treatment. All right, wormy, get off of here. Just hope it's not going to cause the worms any discomfort or problem. People say that it's not a problem for the worms, so I'm kind of going on faith here. I did apply a pretty good amount of it, so I just want to make sure that the worms that are right here in the line of fire, we put them someplace where they can get the heck out of this stuff if they dislike it. But hopefully it doesn't bother them. That's what I'm hoping for. What else? We'll just leave it the way it is and get covered up with plastic. All right, everyone. Well, I really hope this stuff works. I've tried so many different things in here, and you know, if this doesn't work, I don't know where to turn anymore. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Alright everyone, that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please remember to leave me a thumbs up. That's always really appreciated. If you haven't done so already, also consider subscribing to the channel too. Alright everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.